Okay, let's dig into this. We've got some material here focusing on West Africa, specifically Mali.
Right.
And it's presented not as, your typical tourist spot. The source uses phrases like hidden gem.
A treasure trove, I think it said.
Mm.
Really emphasizing history and culture.
Exactly. It frames Mali as a place for a deeper kind of travel experience, more authentic.
Mm-hmm. Going beyond the usual tourist trail.
And interestingly, alongside exploring what Mali offers, the source also talks about how you might plan a trip there.
Using FlightNHotels.com specifically.
Yeah. So our plan for this deep dive is basically to unpack what these materials tell us about Mali, the history, the culture, those key sites it highlights.
And then see how this planning tool, FlightNHotels.com, is suggested to fit into making such a trip happen for you.
Right. It feels like it's for anyone who's curious about really stepping off the beaten path, like the source says.
For that kind of uncommercialized adventure.
Absolutely. So let's start with that core question the material raises. Why Mali? It makes it clear right away. This isn't about beaches or fancy resorts.
No, definitely not. The focus is squarely on, diving into Africa's history, its cultural fabric. It's a very specific appeal.
And some of the cultural points are just fascinating. It mentions Mali as the birthplace of African blues music.
Yeah, mentioning Ali Farka Touré, Salif Keita, huge names.
That immediately gives you a certain vibe, doesn't it?
It does, and I found it interesting how the source weaves that together with Mali's history, these ancient trade cities, the Sahelian architecture.
It paints a picture of a really rich, interconnected heritage.
And then there are the Dogon people. Their traditions, the cliff dwellings.
Sounds incredible, like a whole different world preserved there.
It really underscores what this kind of travel offers, doesn't it? A chance to engage with, living traditions, not just relics of the past.
Good point. Speaking of places, the material walks us through some key destinations. Timbuktu has to be the first one.
The legendary city.
Yeah. Described as this major hub for Islamic scholarship, trans-Saharan trade. A symbol of Africa's intellectual history.
And it lists specific spots like Sankore University, the Niger River Mosque, things you can actually see.
Plus, the hair excursions from there. Sounds pretty amazing.
And the source mentions how you get there. You can fly in or take this multi-day river journey.
Which itself sounds like an experience. That contrast is interesting.
It really highlights the different ways you could approach the trip, depending on time and what you're looking for. Fast access versus slow immersion.
Okay, so from Timbuktu, the source moves to Djenné, famous for its architecture, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Great Mosque, it calls it the largest mud brick building in the world.
Wow.
And it's also one of the oldest cities in sub-Saharan Africa, just steeped in history.
And here's a detail I loved. It says the best time to visit is during the annual replastering festival.
Isn't that fantastic? It makes the building feel alive, part of an ongoing community tradition.
Totally. It's not just a monument. It's actively maintained by the people.
A real connection to heritage preservation.
Then there's Bamako, the capital, presented more as a base.
Yeah, a great base is how the source puts it. It offers that contrast modern life alongside tradition.
So it's the entry point for many, probably.
Likely. And it has its own draws. The National Museum, the Grand Mosque, cruises on the Niger River starting right there.
Right, so you get a feel for the country's pulse before maybe heading out further, like to Dogon country.
Which sounds visually stunning. UNESCO World Heritage Site status.
Those cliff dwellings, hard to even picture.
Exactly. And the source mentions guided treks, cultural tours, seeing traditional mask dances. Again, very focused on that direct cultural experience.
It keeps coming back to that theme of authenticity.
And finally, the Niger River itself. Not just a river, but a travel route.
Mali's lifeline, it calls it.
Yeah, and taking a boat trip, maybe from Mopti, the Venice of Mali.
Yeah, interesting nickname.
It's just you get these amazing views of villages, markets on the water, wildlife. It connects everything.
So the journey itself is part of the destination.
Very much so, it seems.
Okay, so we have a sense of the why and the where. Now, the how. The practical side. The source gives travel tips.
Yes, some essential logistics, like the best time to visit.
Which is?
November to February. For cooler, drier weather. Makes sense.
Definitely. Language?
French is official, but Bambara is widely spoken. Good to know.
And currency is the West African CFA franc, XOF.
Standard for the region.
Then safety. Always a consideration, especially somewhere less traveled.
Right. The advice is clear. Check current travel advisories. And it strongly suggests considering guided tours.
Which probably helps with navigation and cultural understanding, too, not just safety.
Good point. Guides can unlock a lot.
And health, vaccinations.
Yep, yellow fever vaccination is mentioned as required. Plus, carrying mosquito repellent, staying hydrated, the usual but crucial health precautions for the tropics.
Okay, so these tips add that layer of reality to the planning. And this brings us back to the tool mentioned in the source, FlightNHotels.com, positioned as a global travel companion.
Yeah, the idea presented is that it simplifies planning for a trip like this, which might seem daunting otherwise.
How does it supposedly work? What does the source say?
It describes it as a platform for comparing and booking flights, hotels, rental cars, all globally. And it claims to find the best discounted rates.
Okay.
It also mentions a user-friendly interface and using real-time data, suggesting reliability.
And they provide a specific example for Mahler.
They do. A planning example. It shows searching flights to Bamako's airport.
Okay.
Then booking hotels in places like Bamako, Mopti, or Djenné, comparing prices.
Makes sense.
And crucially, it highlights using the platform to rent a 4x4 vehicle.
Essential for somewhere like Dogon country or driving near the river product.
Exactly. The source notes that. And it even mentions finding local excursions through it.
So the picture painted is of a one-stop shop, from the big international flight down to local transport and tours.
That seems to be the angle consolidating the logistics to make a complex trip more manageable, addressing those potential hurdles.
Well, this has certainly painted a vivid picture of Mali, based on this source material anyway.
It really has. And that core message comes through strongly, I think. Mali's unique draw isn't the usual tourist stuff.
No.
It's the deep history, the music that feels like it comes from the soul of the place, those ancient cities, the landscapes.
It's presented as truly unlike any other for someone seeking that authenticity.
Exactly. And the source suggests that using a tool like FlightNHotels.com could streamline the practicalities.
Make it feel less overwhelming, maybe. Hassle-free and cost-effective is the phrase used.
Right? Covering a whole journey, from booking the flight to getting that 4x4 you'll need, or finding that riverside hotel.
So you can focus more on the experience itself.
That seems to be the idea.
Okay, so here's something to leave you thinking about, drawing from all this. Consider the contrast. A journey to a place like Mali, as described here, steeped in centuries of scholarship, trade, living traditions like that mosque replastering or the Dogon dances. How profoundly different is that from a lot of modern travel? The source presents it not just as sightseeing, but as a chance to connect directly with living history, with active heritage preservation.
Yeah, it's a different kind of engagement altogether, something that feels perhaps increasingly rare today. A chance to witness something truly enduring.